Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just coming at you after the finish of a tumultuous 500 laps over at Martinsville Speedway, and the championship for, at least unofficially, is set, as well as potentially a NASCAR championship. Plenty to get into tonight, and we'll go ahead and lead off with this here. In the meantime, at the front of the field, Chase Elliott taking the victory, winning when he needed to, and under the circumstances that he had to. Kevin Harvick having one of the best seasons this year, and yet not making the final cut in the championship. Desperation move off the final corner into Kyle Busch. So you have a situation there where we have a guy that, between himself and Hamlin, seemed like they were going to be the top two drivers and absolutely shoe-ins for the finale in Phoenix next week. But as it turned out, at least so far in the results, we're already going to just have only one of those top two in there. And who knows what kind of show we're going to get from that as a result, though. So difficult situation, a lot of controversy, definitely from the discussions on Twitter alone. I can tell my notifications were getting blown up on a couple of things here, so we'll certainly elaborate on those along the way. But we'll talk about the action from that and everything else that happened. So first things first, with our last place battle here, Garrett Smithley, unofficially your last place finisher with electrical issues that put him out of the race about a fifth of the way through the distance. 104 laps into the race, was stopped on the track, ultimately fell out with electrical issues. I believe about 140 laps in, NASCAR declared him out. Unofficially pending the results from technical inspection, that will hand the NASCAR Cup Series championship to Timmy Hill. The only pathway that was going to change that is if Ryan Preece finished last in today's race and then would finish last again at Phoenix. That was Preece's only chance at the title. So Timmy Hill, unofficially your champion in the Cup Series, the NASCAR Cup Series for this year, after Stephen Light clinched the championship ahead of Timmy Hill in the Xfinity race yesterday. And we'll certainly talk about those events as well. Chris Buescher, Brennan Poole, James Davison, and William Byron unofficially rounding out the bottom five there. Yeah, so definitely a lot to talk about with everything here. Blue Cup, thank you for the super chat. Kyle Busch, MIG sunglasses. There you go. I didn't bring those out. I got to bring those back out for next week's show there. But I'm so used to pronouncing Chris Buescher's now. I sure said Buescher again there. I'm seeing that in the comments too. But yeah, we got a lot to certainly cover with all that, as well as not just the NASCAR championships, but what happened in the top of the division. Where to even really begin? Kevin Harvick seemed like he was going to be a shoe-in for making the final round. You could blame this on any number of factors, between the miss that we had at Texas and the fact that they tried to run those first 50 or so laps, during which Harvick hit the wall. Tweets later this week indicated that Harvick's car was damaged a lot worse than the team originally thought at the time, which explained the fact that he was only able to lead a few of those laps back in the Wednesday race. Comes into Martinsville. Apparently the car wasn't ready, or at least running as well as he has been in the past. I wouldn't say that Martinsville is one of Harvick's best tracks, but I wouldn't say it would be one of his worst. But wasn't even really a factor this entire distance. You have to really give a call, despite the disappointment, to the Stewart-Haas team for doing as best they could to get him back out there and get however many positions they could at the end of the day there. But unfortunately not quite enough there to get the 4 team into the show. But Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski making the cut there along with Chase to join Joey Logano in the stretch. We have to certainly talk about Chase Elliott and the penalty that wasn't a penalty, and also the situation with the championship point standings that I'm sure is going to be a question. Now, I want to offer some additional clarification. I guess we'll start off with this. When I was mentioning the 2003 championship, and this actually kind of dovetails very nicely into my field filler series, because it's talking very much about the fact that this point system was changed and instituted back in 2004. Of course, it's been modified a number of times since then. It's interesting how many people were really upset that Kevin Harvick's not going to make the championship four under this particular set of circumstances, despite having one of the best seasons all year, winning, 9 races or however many he had this season, and not even being, into that position, and just having one bad race, or basically 2 bad races here down the stretch. and having that be utterly fatal to his chances for a championship. Whereas if he had a regular season deal, a full season thing, I think it would be hard to argue that both he and Denny Hamlin would be right up there. Now, I made the comparisons with Ryan Newman, and the comparisons are, not exactly one-to-one. When you're comparing this in any sense, that's going to be the situation. Obviously, yes, Ryan Newman had a great number of DNFs and, in fact, last place finishes. He would have been very much a contender for the NASCAR championship as much as anybody else. But, if you want to talk about that in this point standings, well, you're going to have to talk about our buddy Chase Elliott here in the win today. And the fact that after he crashed out at Phoenix in the penultimate race, when he was in the top 8 in the points and having an outside chance of getting into the top 4, he was back on my page here and in a chance of getting the NASCAR championship last season. So don't tell me that this point system here is something that makes, having a whole lot of last place finishes utterly fatal to you having a championship bid. That's not the case anymore. And a lot of the complaints that I'm sure are going to be coming out here and all this are going to sound awfully familiar, because the whole point of the playoff system when it was created was to weigh winning, because winning should matter more. And even though Newman was as inconsistent as he was, the fact that he won those 8 races and Matt Kenseth won 1 race, and it was no coincidence that the very next year they were instituting this playoff system that has since gone through all these changes since then. Its origins were in the fact of a driver that won the most races that season and didn't win the championship. That was the whole reason that started. So it's strange to then hear the exact same arguments and the fact that this is even possible in this current point system when a driver won that many races. That should raise at least some eyebrows here, but it should also raise eyebrows at this entire experiment. So my point in pointing this out is that if consistency isn't rewarded with this point system, and wins don't entirely matter if you just have one bad 3-race stretch, then what's the point of even doing this? Why not just go back to a full season thing? If the outcome is going to be the same, and we now have an entire set of circumstances where a driver can win that many races and not win the championship, and you could have that in the old point system, where you could have Bill Elliott in 1985 dominate the super speedways, be terrible at the short tracks, and lose the championship to Darrell Waltrip, then what's the difference? Why are we doing this? Much like with the yellow line rule that we had back at Talladega, that should be the question that we should be asking at this point. And I'm sure NASCAR, as we talked about with the yellow line rule back at Talladega, their instinct is always to add more rules to it and say, okay, well, maybe we'll, there were already discussions about this, about maybe somebody that wins the most races, they're already guaranteed a spot in the championship. Okay, well, we're just going to keep adding more and more rules onto it until this situation doesn't happen. But then at some point, you create so many rules and so many bizarre situations that what does the championship even represent anymore? When you have racing so different from stick and ball sports, and so different in that you're competing against the same teams that compete in the Daytona 500 at the end of the year, and that the playoff drivers aren't just running by themselves and everything, then you have just a completely different scenario. And really, I think maybe at the end of the day, a full season championship is the only thing that makes sense, that you have every race matter. And I've expressed frustrations about this that aren't my own. They aren't new frustrations, but the fact that a lot of races just don't matter. That the regular season champion, okay, that's something, but the wins is only just mattering, it just depends on your seeding in the championship, and that's about it. But there's a lot of races that just kind of come and go, and it's like, this guy won the Daytona 500. Oh, but the really thing that really matters, it's the fact that he punched his ticket into the playoffs. So we're not even looking at this entire gap of the season from the Daytona 500 until the fall. And if that happens to the 500, that happens to all these other races at the same time. So that's the frustration that I still have with this here. And this is not a new problem. Much like the restrictor plates, much like the yellow line rule, much like a lot of things that NASCAR institutes and treats like, oh, this has always been there and this has always been the situation, that there's like nothing else they can do about it except add more rules to it that are, trying to cut around every single problem. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that we had the playoff system even be changed because there was a year that Jeff Gordon didn't make it. It's like, well, we can't have that, so let's increase the size of the field. It cheapens the championship when you have a situation like this, and I hate it. I hate it for Harvick. I hate it for that. And again, it's not like we haven't had a whole history of championships where a driver is dominant and stumbles down the end of the year. Obviously, you listen to the Scene Vault podcast and Paul Andrews' interview and the struggles that Junior Johnson's team had down the stretch, that they won 5 races and they couldn't close the deal. That stuff happens. That happens in a full season championship, and it happens in this situation. But we have now created a situation where the tolerances are so narrow that we're going to be constantly chasing this until it just doesn't make any sense anymore. And it's already difficult. I'm glad I follow the last place thing, because I'll tell you what, the NASCAR championship is a full season championship, and it's a heck of a lot easier to follow at the beginning of the year. I'm not saying that a top 5, top 10 thing should be the format or anything, but the other instance that you have to keep in mind also is that during this entire time that NASCAR has been messing with this championship format and trying to perfect it and chase the trends and do everything that way, they also changed the point structure to make it easier to understand, where one position is 1 point. And, it's too bad that we don't have the bonus points for leading laps or the most laps, because that was always an interesting element of it too. But, that was one of the problems with the old point system that I will concede, even when we had the full championships. You had 3 and 5 point intervals or 4 point intervals, and NASCAR has experimented with this for many years and tried to figure it out. And this is what made it tricky, even in the 92 Hooters 500, what the championship scenario was. But now, if today was a good example, one good example from today, when it came down to it at the end, and you knew that one position was 1 point, well, you could see why, Kyle Busch needed to pass this, or Kevin Harvick needed to pass this one driver, or Denny Hamlin needed to not lose this spot. That was a good decision. That was a good decision amongst many other bad decisions, because the problem was, if memory serves, we didn't get that changed point system until 2011, after several years of having the playoffs and several years since of having different forms of the playoffs. I think it would be at least worth considering having a full season championship with the current point standings, maybe get either still have the stage points, don't have the stage points. I'm still not a big fan of them. I still like the most laps led or 1 lap led bonuses that actually encourage competition in the races themselves, not just competition at arbitrary points in the race and then just for the finish. That would be something else to kind of talk about in that sense. But it's a difficult situation. You could say even that this is still an offshoot from what we saw last year in the Truck Series, with Matt Crafton winning the title in the Truck Series without winning a race. But again, I think for me personally, that's the frustration, is that I remember back in 2003, 2004, forget the inconsistency that Ryan Newman had. The reason that the playoffs were created was because it was believed that wins didn't mean enough. And I think we have created a situation where wins don't really mean that much, because now we have stage points. Now we have these regroupings. We have these resets and everything. And it's just ridiculous. And I know that NASCAR is probably going to just keep adding more rules to it and trying to change it. And I'm going round and round on this, but that's where kind of my thinking is on this. And I'm not confident that it's going to change. Again, you can have a situation just naturally and organically happen where a guy dominates and isn't consistent enough to put an entire season together. And that was one great thing with a full season championship, is you could pick out these moments and say, okay, well, this guy, got past at the last lap of this race, or he got spun out in this one, or he ran out of fuel here. You can stitch these moments together. I think now part of this year has been a little bit because, of course, the pandemic break and everything like that. But it's hard for me to really stitch together moments from this year and say where those couple of points were that Harvick missed out on. Because I guess you can really just point at what happened to Texas and hitting the wall and just say, oh, it was just that. But really, there's other moments this entire year. But you kind of lose that with all these regroupings and resets and realignments and playoff points and stage points. It's just distractions. It's just distractions in the way. And I know NASCAR is trying to capitalize on this by having a playoff system, trying to go head-to-head against football, trying to go head-to-head against the World Series and other things that are different sports entirely. That's what works for them. But is this going to be the moment where, it's the situation where they actually go back to a full season thing? I'm not holding my breath on that. But I do think it feels like it's gone full circle. And I'm hearing the same things I heard in 2003 about this point system. So I I was a little perplexed by some of the reactions I was getting online there. So I definitely want to make sure I put that out because that's kind of where the situation is with that. So so that's the first part of this. The second part, let's talk about Chase Elliott's pit penalty here, folks. Okay, now I'm gonna get the tweet back out from Bob Pockris here. Kudos to him, first of all, for getting the rule right quick. That's the most Pockris thing possible, that he was able to clip that part out and get it posted, which is fantastic. A great job by him, because now the rest of us can look at this. Now, as some of you know, I do have a legal background, and as my dad always says, sometimes you have to have a legal degree to read the newspaper anymore, because a lot of these things come down to gotcha rules and everything, and everything is just down to just being judged as a ball or a strike or anything else. Okay, so here's the rule that came up here. Well, actually, we'll go back over the situation. Chase Elliott comes down pit road. His pit stall is on a corner. Since Martinsville expanded its pit road in 1999, there's some people that could have pit stalls on the corners, so you can't see around the corner very well. Okay, NASCAR has, of course, been historically picky about two particular things on pit road: driving through too many pit stalls or pit crew members going over the wall too soon. This was a situation with Chase Elliott. Jackman comes over the wall too soon, way too soon. So early, in fact, that he has a chance that when Chase Elliott comes in, he backs up, appears to kick off the wall, and then go back to servicing the car. Now, it's a terrible stop. Chase Elliott's crew, except for their last stop of the night, which was very fortunate for them, seemed to be having a whole kinds of struggles there. It's originally ruled that he goes over the wall too soon. And so they were going to drop him to the tail end of the line. They then rescind the penalty. And this rule, as cited by Pockris here, is the one that was cited. Section G, which tells you how many different sections are under this rule, is probably all kinds of conditions that we don't even know about on this one. Crew members' feet and or pit equipment must not touch the pit road surface before the vehicle is 1 pit box away from its assigned pit box or the equivalent marked distance. Should a crew member's feet prematurely touch the pit road surface prior to servicing the vehicle, said crew members can reestablish their position back to or behind service wall prior to servicing the vehicle to avoid a penalty. Now, in the legal biz, there's a very difficult thing with rules that comes up, because what you have to do is you have to parse out each little piece and ask, is this piece satisfied? Is this element satisfied to show that the rule has been followed literally to the letter? What's tricky about following rules this way is that you have situations where you don't know what the rule means exactly, like what the word choice is, what this word means in the context of something else. You really have to kind of, try to figure things out in that sense. And it's not easy. It's challenging. It is challenging for me, under those circumstances too. What's central in this here is we have the situation where the pit crew member can reestablish their position. So what is reestablishing the position? Is that standing back on the pit wall? Is it going back behind the pit wall? Is it backing a certain distance away from the car? What is that? Okay, we don't know what that means. Okay, they can reestablish their position back to or behind the service wall. Okay, so you can either go back to the pit wall or behind the service wall. So you don't have to be behind the pit wall. That much is clear. So, okay, we know in this case, this person didn't go behind the wall, but that doesn't mean that he violated this rule. Fair enough. But he means that he has to go back to the wall and he has to reestablish their position. So there's two things have to happen. You have to reestablish your position back to the pit wall. Did he do that in this particular case? That seems to be central here. Now, again, there's a couple angles of it. It's a little tricky to find, but from the last angle that I saw, the dead-on one there, it looked like he turned around. He realized that he had gone out too early. He went out. At least one of his feet was on the pit wall. He kind of kicked off it and then went back to work. There was a bit of a hesitation. They did lose some spots. It wasn't a great pit stop because, of course, what are the crews going to do changing the tires? They can't get the jackman over there. So the problem is we still have a gray area. You can definitely understand that from this. You can tell that this is still a judgment rule, much like with the yellow line rule about if somebody's forcing somebody below the line. We did that chapter and verse. If you haven't seen that show already, I won't bore you with that already. You can go back to the Talladega show and go into full details on that. But what we need to find out is not just the rule, but is there a definition section in the rule book that clarifies what is reestablishing your position and what is being back to the service wall. Did that happen in this case? Now, of course, in NASCAR, you have this whole thing happen. There had to be a call one way or the other. Was the call right? Well, we can spend all night figuring out those two elements. According to NASCAR, that was correct. And according to them, that was the right way, that he reestablished his position back to the wall by merely putting one foot on the wall. Is that what the rule says he should have done? No, that's not what the rule says. So, but the problem is, from the letter of the rule, we don't know that. And so this is going to still be a controversy one way or the other. And I hate it for Chase. He did win the race. He overcame a lot of difficulties to get there. But the fact of the matter is, if we're going to talk about the tuck rule in football, if we're going to talk about anything else over sports history, again, I've made it very clear how much I don't like gotcha rules and the ooh thing. You know, this is what I'm talking about. This is a gotcha rule here. It's like saying, oh, no, I touched base. I touched base. That means I'm not it. Like, you know, I get that there has to be, I guess, a moment at this point, but in so many other times past, how many times in the past year have we seen that a crew member came over the wall too soon and boom, it's instantly a penalty and that's the end of it? Now, in every one of those cases, did that mean that the crew member actually finished working on the car and didn't go back and tag the wall or didn't try to? I have a hard time believing that. Did that happen in every one of those cases? I'd be really interested to see if there's like a chronicle of other instances that showed when a crew member came over the wall and instead of servicing the car, went back to the wall and did what Chase Elliott's crew member did. I'd be very interested to know if there was any kind of, questions that came up during the drivers' meeting about this. But that's what's central with this. And unfortunately, this is the reason it's still going to be a controversy. Now, again, I don't have the full rule book in front of me like Pockrass does. It could well be that maybe there is a definition section. But if there is, then we're going to have to argue those definitions too and figure this out. So and the reason that this matters is, of course, we're going to be in a situation where we have, it could happen again. It could just as easily happen again somewhere down the road. So we have to figure this out. So if somebody else, is it because it was Chase Elliott and because it was a championship contender? So you're telling me if Corey LaJoie behind him had a pit crew member come off the wall too soon, that they wouldn't call him in for this penalty because the guy went back and he tagged the wall, that he didn't stand up on the wall? Because that's the interesting thing. That's the part that makes me think that the rule is intending to mean that you should be standing on the wall, because that's the position before the car comes in. The whole reason for the rule is that you don't want people setting foot in the pit stall. So if one foot's still in the pit stall when you're going back to position, or back to whatever the spot is, it seems like you're not satisfying the rule. But it's academic at this point because NASCAR's just let this go here. So there you go. Beast of Metal, thank you so much for the super chats. I want to catch up on these here. I'm seeing the ones on here. Holy S, it's real. Chase Elliott defied the definition of insanity. He's going to run for a championship at Phoenix. I'm not a salty F for once. Well, again, and I know that's going to be an element of this is, again, you don't know what's going to happen with the championship, dovetailing with the concerns about Kevin Harvick and having the season that he had and not being able to make the championship four. I'm not saying a driver should be entitled to anything. I don't believe that in the same sense that a driver should still be raced as hard as possible at the end of the race, like Eric Jones was with his teammate Denny Hamlin. But it's a different it's a different situation with that. But again, it's going to be controversial just because the driver's popular, and I know the meme that some will probably think is that this was ruled this way because it's Chase Elliott, because he was a championship driver, because he's perceived to be the most popular driver in the sport. Even though there was that poll posted just this week that said that Bubba Wallace was the driver that most people knew about outside of the sport, not Chase Elliott. So, I don't like to think that being an element, but it absent a clear definition, and hopefully we'll get one this week, I can see where people are coming from on that. And it's unfortunate because it's another consequence of this championship format that it ended up being this critical in this race in this particular moment. But we'll find out what happens from there. So I don't know. Goodness. Beast of Metal, I think I saw you had another super chat earlier. Let me try and make sure I read that. Where was it? Okay, there we go. Beast Metal, again, thank you for the super chats here. Also, an inverse deal that may be relevant. I recall the 42 being penalized a few years ago because a behind-the-wall crew guy had to put his palm in the pit box to avoid face planting after tripping. Yep, exactly. That's another perfectly, thank you for bringing that up. That's another perfectly good example. So in that guy's situation, let's think about that. Say Chase Elliott's crew member did that, and he slipped out, and he tries to catch himself. He's trying to grab a tire. He's trying to follow the letter of the rule, but he goes out and his hand slips and his hand hits the pavement on the track. If he goes back behind the wall, maybe he lets go of the tire and he stops servicing the car or anything. He lets go of the tire and he gets back. Does that count as, does that still count as a penalty? But it seems like in this case, we're talking more about getting into the pit box before the car is arriving. So it's a little bit of a different circumstance in that sense. I guess the closest thing to this would be if somebody for some reason was, just hanging out behind the wall or something, and then, touched the pit box and then went back. Like, even if it wasn't servicing the car, but before the car got there. See, that's where it gets a little bit tricky. That might be a little bit of a different situation that we have here. But it does point out how NASCAR is willing to break down every little one of these moments here, and it's yes or no. And I know a lot of stuff happens during a pit stop, and these calls have to be made, but whether or not this is the right way to approach it, I think that's still at least up, debatable. It's at least up in the air. So I'm not sure where that's going to shake out. But you raise a good point, though. And it could be, it kind of reminds me a little bit of criminal procedure. There's a large part of criminal law that, we just talked about different, murder and other rules like that. But when you talk about, when a police officer pulls you over and examines your car, or what your rights are in a traffic stop, there's an entire body of law that just grew organically out of criminal law just for that, because it's just like this. It's all these little distinctions, but those distinctions are important because you see, you'll see this in the news when they have a situation where a person's pulled over and they break down, like what happened? Did the person look in the trunk of your car? Did they shine a flashlight in your car? How long were you there? And all these little elements that come up. It's because those elements matter. And that's the crossover, into sports in that sense. So you get a difficult situation there. But I'm going to be interested to see. I anticipate NASCAR is probably going to come out with a statement explaining, in retrospect, why their rule is correct, just like they did with the yellow line situation that we had back at Talladega. Is it going to be satisfactory? No, because what it's going to be is that, well, what are they going to do? They're going to take Chase Elliott's win away from him. They're going to say, well, that penalty probably shouldn't have come out. That's probably not going to be the situation. They'll say, well, in our judgment, this is what happened. When at the end of the day, it was just a matter of seconds, if not minutes. And they just said, no, it's fine. And they just kind of let him stay up in that spot and kept going from there. So it's going to be a bizarre, situation. Now, and again, I saw even comments in here talking about it too. If we reach the point, we don't even know about post-race inspection yet. So it could even be moot beyond that point. But I don't anticipate any of that changing here, going forward. And I certainly don't, it's tricky because you have this situation also because, I know our disqualification show we had last year for the Homestead finale went on for like 3 hours because we were waiting for the results from technical inspection. I seriously doubt they would ever disqualify anybody that won the championship in this format here, where they get all the way to the final race and you have something like that. And same thing with this last cutoff race here. I mean, this seemed to be the kind of situation they wanted with a driver that to them is, a big fan draw, winning a race there at Martinsville, the cutoff and going back into it. But that's going to be a whole different story, but we're going to find out on that end. So gosh, I'm exhausted. I'll tell you what, I'm plenty exhausted there after that one. Oh goodness, I didn't see your earlier super chat there, Beast of Metal. Despite my earlier chat, I will be first person to say that the wall rule is tuck rule levels of BS. They should change it before someone who isn't widely liked exploits it to save us all some salt. Well, see, there you go. Yeah, and that you raise, that's I completely agree with that. That's part where it needs to be clarified at least, or eradicated if it's too confusing. Where again, somebody gets out. It's like, look, he jumped over the wall. And it may have had the offsetting situation of them still having a terrible pit stop because he was just kind of standing there and not knowing what to do and went back to the wall and it messed up the rhythm of everybody. Is that still enough of a penalty when it only cost him like a few spots? Whereas he would either go to the tail end of the longest line in the closing stages of a race where it's so difficult to pass. So that's kind of the whole situation there. But definitely interested to get you guys' thoughts on that. I know a lot of comments came through here, so I'm still catching up on all that. But wow, 117 in here. Didn't think we were having that much. I guess I was already spitting enough fire already on that one. It's. I'll tell you what. It's. I'm gonna have to take like some kind of a vacation or something after this season's over with, because this has been an exhausting one. I'll tell you what. The levels of craziness that we've had this year, offsetting it. I saw it mentioned in the comments here, Matt DiBenedetto getting the 10th spot. I do see that in the results there. Great job by him. I know he was in the middle of kind of that Harvick thing there during his late charge. Great run for him. Great run for Boyer, getting an 8th spot there. I thought it was really cool that the rear deck lid of his car had all the old sponsors that had backed him in the years, even like Jack Daniels and Cheerios. And you think back to all those other paint schemes he ran over the years. I thought that was a nice touch. Joey Gase actually had the same thing on his car. I'm actually kind of writing more about this in the article this week, since he was starting in last in the race today. But he had like all the other partners that had sponsored him this year. And it was really cool to kind of put in perspective. Even for a relatively small team like Rick Ware Racing, they have a lot of different partners that jump on board and cobble together a full season effort. I know Gase hasn't been in that car every race this year, but still, it was good to see. So kudos to him. Saw some comments on Bowman. Yeah, great run. I didn't expect him to do nearly that well in this race here. And while he's not making the next round of the championship, he certainly had a great season across the board. Obviously, we were there when he won Fontana earlier this year. That put him into this situation, and had some other good runs along the way. So certainly good to see here. Let's see. Other orders. Let's see. Other results down here. I'm sorry that I missed the start of it there too. I thought for sure it was going to start at 11:40 Pacific. I had that programmed. Turned out it was 11:11, but luckily the DVR caught it, so I was able to catch up to there. So I didn't get the initial moments of the last place battle. It looked like Michael McDowell's tire issue was pretty early on there before the situations with Smithley and Gase there at the early parts. But thank you to those Twitter members who were filling in the gaps for me there on Twitter. I know the PETM podcast was on board with that, and a few others of you there, so I appreciate that. It's tricky to kind of catch up with some of this sometimes, but obviously if I'm unavailable for one of these races here, I definitely appreciate the notes, because that makes it that much easier for me to get these articles done. And the article on the Cup Series, Garrett Smithley, potentially last place finish today, will be posted later tonight, and we'll get that going. Looking further back, Harvick ends up 17th, last car on the lead lap after his spin. Ty Dillon and Christopher Bell, the two teams that are closing at the end of this year, got 15th and 16th. Dillon was up there for a little bit. I saw him in the top 10 during one of those resets, so that was cool. Eric Jones, I know we just barely touched on this earlier. Again, no quarter for the championship, guys. Eric Jones is trying to get the best performance that he can out there and do the best that he can in the 20 car there before he leaves the team. I'm reminded of Brian Vickers in 2006 when he was going up against Jimmy Johnson and Dale Jr. at the end of Talladega. And one would think perhaps he was going to draft Johnson to get around Jr., and it ended up that one zigged and the other zagged, and Vickers ended up spinning both of them and getting what was his first Cup Series victory after it was announced that he was going to be leaving that team to go to Team Red Bull for the rival Toyota manufacturer. So you know that he wasn't in any team meetings, just like Eric Jones hasn't been over at Toyota. So I don't blame Jones at all for racing Hamlin as hard as he could. Was there some team orders there, and why he didn't get around him? Who's to say? I wasn't listening to the channel, so I don't know anything on that thing. I know it looked like Jones did have a faster car, and he probably could have got around Hamlin. And Hamlin, at the second half of this race, was a lot like back in the June race, where he seemed to be struggling a little bit. Nobody out and out dominated this one, which was surprising. Even Truex, heartbreaker for him, by the way. It seemed like getting a third straight Martinsville win would have been a surefire thing for him. But that loose wheel there towards the end just doomed him there. But other than Truex, and then later, of course, Chase Elliott, it seemed like they were the more or less the class of the show. Everybody else kind of just catching up. Jimmy Johnson, you saw him on pit road towards the end of the race there, finishing in the 30th spot, 5 laps down. I mean, again, one of the worst finishes he's had at Martinsville, which has been undeniably one of his best tracks. If you don't, you put in that same pantheon as Charlotte and Dover. Unfortunate for him there. So he's going to go into Phoenix. in his last start, and yeah, could very well, not win a race in his last season, which, it seemed back in May he still had some potential to pull something off. I know there was a heartbreaker back in that Darlington race, and they came back. He was about to win that stage, and it looked like he had a good run going there. Just hasn't been his year this year, and it's it's heartbreaking. I would love to be down there to get the interviews and see what's going on there with the 48 team. Unfortunately, we had to scrub that from our schedule with all the stuff this year. Our next race, again, we're looking at doing will be the 1 year anniversary, basically, of the last coverage we did, which will be Fontana this next February for the last race on the large oval. So we'll talk about that. Oh, goodness, I saw another super chat here for a moment. Beast of Metal again. Thank you. My goodness, man. Thank you so much for the super chats here. Every time I post a tweet of yours or anyone else talking about Joey Gase on Discord, people start spamming the thread with gifs of Adam Gase. Well, there you go. I guess a name that's a bit more known outside of NASCAR and into other sports as well. That's the was that the Jets coach, or was that the other, or the Giants? I can never remember. I haven't watched much football at all this year, so that would be the other one on that end. But thank you again for the super chats here for sure. So I appreciate the again, I appreciate the follows on here and all that. And again, I know it's been a difficult year this year. And again, I really want to thank again you guys for your support on the video, the Field Fillers series. Again, I know not everybody can do the Patreon, not everybody can do super chats and all that. The best way to help the content I do on the channel and the stuff I do here on YouTube, just keep sharing the links to the videos and, sharing the links to the stuff I do on the website. Tell your friends about them. We're still a small organization. We do the best we can with what we have. But I really appreciate those of you that are doing it. I know that that's happening because I've been very pleased with the response. These first 2 episodes have been going with the Field Filler series. And I do have a lot more content coming on that. Actually, that was another reason that I was missing the start of the race today. I was actually working on something for episode 3, and I was going to work right up to the start of the race. So I'm hoping to get that going here. And as we get into the off season, we'll see how things look with the holidays, of course, but I'm still going to plan on getting some more episodes for you guys and some more content for you to see. So I think that'll be something exciting to follow up with here for you guys as well. So definitely check that out. Let's see. What else? Oh, we haven't even talked about the Xfinity and the truck races. My goodness, we got to do that. Let's look at the results here. We'll do some trivia here in a little bit. I know we got a lot of people in here, so thanks again for those of you tuning in. We'll do some trivia here on the NASCAR Trivial Pursuit thing here in just a few minutes. We're going to do a brief mention here of the Xfinity and the Truck Series races from this weekend. Good to see the Xfinity Series back at Martinsville. I think, like a lot of you, I was wondering why they weren't doing this for so many years. In fact, there was a point in time where this used to be the finale for the championship. And with the racing that we saw this weekend, I think you can see why that was the situation for so many years. Harrison Burton, great win. Hate that he got bumped out of the playoffs, given his win at Texas, and then doing this win again here. Shades of Kyle Busch's win at Texas last week, or actually not last week, just a few days ago. Good to see him getting our victory there in front of his dad, the youngest winner there since Jeff Burton himself in the Xfinity Series or the Busch Series or Grand National Series further back in the days. Great to see Jeb Burton getting in the 4th spot there. Noah Gragson doesn't make the cut for the championship there, but Allgaier does. Championship 4 set now for next week. Brett Moffitt did a great job in both of the races there, the Harry Gant throwbacks. Those were good to see. Unfortunately got in a wreck there in the Truck Series race, and on the Xfinity side finished in the 13th spot. Ryan Sieg comes up short of making the final 4, but fought just down all the way to the last there. Had those struggles at Texas with the mechanical issues that dropped him further back. He ends up in the 11th spot here at Martinsville. Still not a bad run. Actually, he finished ahead of Justin Haley, who did make the championship 4. So I think that's a feather in his cap. Now he's got to go out there and get that first win. My brother and I always go Sieg, Sieg, Sieg all the time there at the end of the race. Just hoping for him to pull something off because he's been so much fun to watch. And that team has improved so much over these last few years. I would love to see him break through, just like a lot of these small teams there at the same time. Got to give a call again to J.J. Yaley. This was mentioned in my article, which ended up being a combined effort since Josh Rialm had the last place finish in both the truck and the Xfinity Series. It wasn't, of course, planned. I was already behind on the truck article and kind of lumped them together there. Yaley's run, I was really impressed by. And I know he was in the same situation that we saw with Corey LaJoie tonight when they ran out of tires. Kudos to him, by the way, to get them some screen time, and it's good to see them get talked about. But in the same blush, J.J. Yaley in the Saturday race, Rick Ware's team, only the second start they've had this year. Their first start was back at the Roval when Cody Ware got that top 10, his career best finish in the rain and all that ridiculousness back then. Yaley comes out in another car for them, starts last on the grid, charges his way into the top 15 in the early laps, gets almost into the top 10, it looked like at some point. Pit strategy got him back up front there for a little bit, and still ends up overcoming a spin and getting 14th there. I think that was a fantastic run for him. Yaley is a really good guy. I know I've talked a lot about covering him, certainly on the NASCAR side. He's always kept a great sense of humor with that. We presented him with the NASCAR certificate actually just last year at Phoenix. Really pleased with the run that they put together there. I thought that was one of the scene stealers of that whole Saturday race there. Tommy Joe Martin's getting another good run there in the 16th spot. Timmy Hill in 17th. Brandon Brown 18th. Josh Williams, it seemed like he was going to get in our top 10 there. Still finishes the last car on the lead lap, the next to last car, the third to last there, towards the end of the lead lap in the 19th spot. Mason Diaz, his first start this year. Last time I think he started, I wrote about him when he finished last at Bristol, driving second car for Brandon Bill's team. He comes back out there with the number 26 Sam Hunt team, gets a top 20 out of that. Fantastic run for those guys. Good to see. Certainly hope to see what they can do at Phoenix. AJ Allmendinger, he had the same situation that Martin Truex had today. Looked like he was going to be a shoo-in for a good finish, if not a win. Ends up having issues towards the end, finishing in the 26th spot. Hated it for Ryan Vargas. We had the battery issues on the number 6, getting further back in the running order. Greg Alding just had bizarre situations with that car from the very start. The car just shutting down. Still ends up getting just on the edge of the bottom 5 in the 35th spot there. Bailey Curry seemed like he was going to have another good run for the Mike Harmon team. Unfortunately, pounded the wall there, got in the 36th spot. Chad Fincham in 37th. Matt Mills with a bit of a scary fire underneath the car there, getting in the 38th spot. Josh Riam, again, your last place finisher. Big thanks again to Start and Park Cars for the pictures he sent me of the teams, both the Truck Series and the Xfinity side. I may actually edit that article so it has pictures of both the Xfinity car and the truck, so you can get a comparison of both of them there. I was hoping to get a screenshot from the broadcast, but I didn't get that one on that. But Josh, and also kudos to him as well. I know Josh actually liked the tweet when I posted the article about him again. And again, that team and that driver have really done a whole lot. I know that he jumped on board to help the 93 team out there at the RSS effort. And it's good to see him get back out there and do a few races. It's unfortunate that this one ended up not going that many laps, although the 62 laps he completed just beat by 1 lap the record for most laps complete by a last place finisher of an Xfinity race at Martinsville. I know it's a mouthful, but still something at least you can mention at the same time there and look at something positively along the way. But again, kudos to Harrison Burton on the victory, and lots to talk about in that same sense there. Confirmation, thank you for the super chat here. Considering the crap Eckes was talking, he didn't really go that far against Rhodes, and Harrison Burton is driving with some swagger. Well, there you go. It's you kind of seemed like you were going to get a little bit more out of what happened in the Truck Series race the other day, given the rhetoric that was going on there, but didn't quite work at the same sense there. But interesting to see. We'll talk about the Truck Series race here too before we get into our trivia portion of the show here. Martin, goodness, checking everything out here. Martin Kleenex is out. Oh my goodness, there you go. Again, this is always. I mean, maybe this is why they still have the playoff system. Is you got people eliminated. I remember when they had elimination rounds in the Winston back in 2002, and they called it Survival of the Fastest, and it was a cool format. But I think it was better when you didn't have points being a factor in there, and it was kind of its own thing. I thought that was pretty exciting, but that was a different situation with that. But yeah, certainly hoping to see what C can do. But again, kudos to J.J. Yaley. Got to really mention him a lot, and I can't say enough about the effort that the Rick Ware team put together. I know people have different opinions about the Rick Ware team and what their intentions are or what runs they're gonna what they can do. I know we saw the 53 car be a factor towards the end of the finish today. Couldn't help it. Car just shut off. We had to just, these things happen. And we saw a lot of that pretty much this entire weekend. You give these teams no practice, and no qualifying, they're not going to be able to catch these issues before they get back out there. There's only so much you can see when you're looking at the car in the shop or on the grid before the race. We'll move along to the Truck Series race here. Josh Riam, again, as I mentioned, last place finisher. This one where he didn't even start the race, had clutch issues on the pace laps, had to get pushed back around the track. It didn't show as it did not start. He went back behind the wall and did not start the race, however. Went back there. They were eventually going to pull the transmission out. They were looking to get another transmission. They didn't have any brake fluid. They had to get brake fluid from another team. They took about half the distance of the race to do this. And then it got to a point where nobody else was out, really. And it seemed that even the people at the back of the field weren't more than 11 laps back, and they weren't going to be able to really gain any positions. And so they ultimately ended up finishing last in the race, but not for lack of trying. Got to be clear about that. And you'll check out the article. It's already on the NASCAR site. You can get the full read up and figure out what happened on the 00 team finishing in the back of the field. The other heartbreaker, of course, on the Truck Series side, Austin Hill had his engine layover on him there, finishing the 35th spot there. Real bad there for the Hattori team, but they'll always have that championship with Brett Moffitt a couple of years ago, and Hill is becoming one of these really solid figures there in the Truck Series from one year to the next, which is really impressive given his origins with Young's Motorsports and some of these other teams coming up. Good to see him get some decent runs there. Tate Fogelman, Cody Rohrbaugh, Spencer Davis, other parts of the bottom five there. Looking further up the field, Danny Bone. I tweeted early in the race there of the damage that he had. He did seem to have very significant damage to the front and the back of the truck. I don't know what he was involved in there at that point. Probably a chain reaction after the racist Sorelli spin off of turn 4. But you had a situation there where Bone ends up getting in the 7th position at the end of the day. That was the one that ended up being featured in the Realm article. I want to point out that much like Yaley's recovery, Bone did a fantastic job bouncing back from that. Trevor Bain just on the outside of the top 10, the 11th spot there. Good run there. Carson Hocevar was up front there for a bit, parlaying a bit of strategy. Seemed like he was working his way in there. Got some points, I believe, in stage 2 for the Al Neese team. I know he got, had kind of a rough finish to the race, but doesn't take away from a solid run that he had. Timmy Hill, much like his great run in the Xfinity race, getting a 14th place finish in the Truck Series effort. Dawson Cram, 16th spot there. I believe that's the best run for him since he struck out as team owner here this year. Not his best ever finish. He had a good run at Phoenix a couple years ago with the DJ Kopp team, but that'll be good to see them turn things around. Clay Greenfield right on the outside of the top 20, good bounce back after they had that savage crash at Texas last week. And then you look further back and you had some other people that had some serious problems there during the race. Tanner Gray eliminated under the damaged vehicle policy. Brett Moffitt and the Harry Gant truck with damage to about the same right front corner. But in this case, unfortunately, he wasn't able to just cut that off and keep going. It ended up taking him out of the race and finishing in the 28th spot. But regardless, Moffitt part of the championship 4 for next week. And we do have, I saw the comments here earlier asking about this. We're going to get ourselves a pretty good NASCAR championship battle. In spite of the fact that we don't have one in the Xfinity and Cup Series, those are already locked up. This next Friday, you better believe we're going to be following that action here that night. That is going to be a whole lot of fun to talk about. We're going to have ourselves a championship battle between, I'm stalling for time to make sure I get the names correctly on this one. Where is it? The paragraphs. Looking further back, I know Norm Benning is the current leader still on the tiebreaker. And we're going to have the other, oh my goodness, where is it? Looking further back and now further up. There it is. Bryant Barnhill was one of the other championship contenders. He drove for Josh Riam back when they ran 3 trucks earlier this year. They parted ways after Homestead. Ordinarily, he'd be in the championship battle. We'll see if he gets added to the truck list. I think it was already posted. I don't believe he was on there. But that would potentially make it a four-driver one. The others being Norm Benning, Johnny Sauter, and Tanner Gray, your championship contenders. All 3 of them have 2 last-place finishes. If everything stays the same and none of those drivers finish last, you're going to have Benning take the championship, which I believe would be, if not the first time ever, the first time in years for him. Or it could be Johnny Sauter or Tanner Gray in fully funded Ford efforts. It could go either way. We talked about Chase Elliott in the NASCAR Cup Series championship last year, but this year we are doing the certificates again. I'm going to be printing out all of them this week and getting that set up. Already got to print out the ones for Hill and for Light, and those will be shipped out over to Motorsports Business Management pretty soon. I'm going to have to get the other ones ready for the Truck Series just in case. Maybe we'll do something special with that for our season finale show next week at Phoenix. We'll probably do some other shows over the off season. We're going to keep that pretty loose like we did last year. But certainly we'll probably do things a little bit differently this year. And again, some more stuff here on the website. Looking at the results. Yeah, I don't see Norm Benning with the NASCAR Truck Series championship yet. So this would be his first if he pulls it off. And that will be interesting to see. But it's been very competitive on the Truck Series NASCAR championship. Yeah, Sauter wins. You better have me deliver that certificate. Yeah, I'd probably take you up on that one. I'm not going to be doing it in person. That would be the case there. But that'll be a different situation on that. But it'll be interesting to talk about. But that's kind of where we're looking for next week. I'm just kind of looking at the rest of the results here. BJ McLeod and the other Josh Riam truck getting in the 22nd spot there. Sauter, I mean, my goodness, just the difficult season he's had has just been ridiculous. I can't certainly seeing him in the NASCAR Truck Series championship definitely speaks to that. And Tanner Gray on the flip side, seems like he's actually had a pretty decent year. In spite of the issues he's had there. But again, when you have the top three drivers only having 2 last place finishes, we're having ourselves one of the closest ones we've had in a few years. We haven't had a tiebreaker in the NASCAR Truck Series Championship since 2017 when Mike Seneca took it. And I don't believe we had it with more than just a couple of drivers and even longer since then. So potentially the fewest last place finishes of any NASCAR Truck Series Championship since 2005 with Tracy Hines, who also had 2 last place finishes. Will that change this weekend? We can see, but it's at least a possibility that we'll find out. So one championship still to be settled in Phoenix, and we're going to definitely cover the action for that at the same time there. So that's going to be good. Again, I see the comment section, people asking about the certificates. That was actually suggested to me by an ARCA team. One was actually following our writer William Saki, who covers the ARCA championships on that side, was actually asked, like, hey, if we win this championship, do we get a trophy or something? And so I looked at the trophies. It was kind of a little pricey, so I didn't really jump into that. But certificates seemed like a better way to go. Easier to mail, easier to print. And had a kind of a design to set up there. So we do have those. If we cover Phoenix next year, which we do plan on doing, we may be handing some of those over in person, hopefully get some more pictures or at least stories from that. And we'll certainly find out from that sense. So that'll be interesting. Hey there, everybody. Welcome aboard. Take care, Braden. Thanks for stopping by on the show. We're going to go ahead and jump into our trivia portion of the show here. If you have any other questions from the action this weekend that I haven't covered already, feel free to mention in the chat. Don't be a stranger. So we're all cool here. We're going to go into the categories here in just a moment, and whichever category you'd like, we'll go ahead and get into that. Boop. Hang on. Alrighty, here we go. So the categories again are NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Again, the categories are NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. So go ahead and mention in the comments which category you'd like me to do, and we'll do a few questions here to wrap up the show. It always feels like it goes longer than it has. It's only 53 minutes in, so right on. Sometimes it's so much tension. My face is getting wore out, but we're getting plenty of action with this. Just making sure I got everybody's comments here earlier and checking that out. I should brought the shades up. I should bring that up for Phoenix next week. We'll have to look into doing that and covering some more of that. I definitely want to make sure I brought my Matt Kenseth shirt out. This is the shirt I got from after Matt Kenseth wrecked Joey Logano in turn 1 in 2015. Man, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago. But I picked up this shirt because I said, like, man, that's the coolest thing Kenseth's ever done. I think it's the only Kenseth shirt I have, so there's that. Cardinals fan, thanks for subscribing on the channel for sure. Yeah, I probably just mailed the certificate to ThorSport. I tried that with Rick Ware Racing last year with BJ McLeod. That would be the way to do it. Yeah. I'll ship it to the team, and I'll leave it up to them what they want to do with it. But that'll be the kind of thing. But I'm going to be signing it and sending it over. And if he wants to talk about it in another race, I'd certainly be fine with doing that. But he's not the only one receiving it. Joe Nemechek already has one, and Yaley and McLeod already from last year. So we have those. What categories we have here? Let's see. Let's see here. Pits, wild card, tracks, drivers. We got a couple for wild card. We got a couple for drivers. And it's pretty evenly distributed here. We'll just, let's see. We'll just kind of, let me hit the button a few times. We'll just kind of pick whichever one I land on here. All right, drivers. We did see a few for drivers here anyway. We'll do that one. All right, here we go. This is an appropriate one. What driver extended his winless streak at the Daytona 500 to 31 in 1998? What driver extended his winless streak at the Daytona 500 to 31 in 1998? There we go. I wasn't planning on that being the direction this question was going to go. What driver extended his winless streak at the Daytona 500 to 31 in 1998? There we go. Yeah, an unusual one. Got several guesses for Dave Marcus, Mark Martin. Yeah. Well, again, with Johnny Sauter, I guess he's going to be a big Joe Nemechek fan there, or Joe Nemechek, Norm Benning or Tanner Gray fan, because he's still, again, not the leader in that championship. So it'd probably be for the best on that one. What driver extended his winless streak at the Daytona 500 to 31 in 1998? Alrighty, and the answer is Dave Marcus. You guys got it. Dave Marcus is indeed the correct answer. Alrighty. Next question. How many NASCAR Winston Cup titles did Ned Jarrett win? Gentleman Ned, how many NASCAR Winston Cup titles did Ned Jarrett win? How many NASCAR Winston Cup titles did Ned Jarrett win? That is our next question. Ryan Sieg deserves better equipment. Yep, I have to agree with you on that one. Alrighty, how many NASCAR Winston Cup titles did Ned Jarrett win? The answer is 2. A lot of you guys got that one. 2. Bop, you were first on the button there. NASCAR fan 93-100 said Ed 2. Stephen Flannery, Jason Toth, Alex Bernard, Braden Taylor, Robbie Burns, Confirmation 07, Maserati 9, Ad 206, also 23 Dragon, Rails and Racing, and Braden Taylor. My goodness, there you go. I think that was too easy. Okay, let's see if we can get a harder one here. Alrighty. Who was the first NASCAR Winston Cup driver to test at Suzuka Circuitland? Who was the first NASCAR Winston Cup driver to test at Suzuka Circuitland? A little bit of Formula One crossover here. Who was the first NASCAR Winston Cup driver to test at Suzuka Circuitland? Make sure that plug stays in there. The first NASCAR Winston Cup driver to test at Suzuka Circuitland. We got guesses for Earnhardt, Gordon, Dale Jarrett, Rusty Wallace, Senior, Terry Labonte. The answer, Earnhardt. Earnhardt, indeed the correct answer. Akihiko Nakaya, there you go. I would have loved to do a starting grid for the Suzuka race and just do these different names and kind of split them up with the American and Japanese names. That would have been fun. I liked when Hideo Fukuyama got into the Cup Series, so that was fun. All right, here we go. Who pocketed 100 grand for winning 2 out of the 4 Winston Million events in 1996? Who pocketed 100 grand for winning 2 out of the 4 Winston Million events in 1996? Yeah, 2 out of the 4. All right. Yeah, I wish I could say that daylight savings had a reason that I missed the race, but it had nothing to do with it, I'll tell you. That was definitely the difference there. Who pocketed 100 grand for winning 2 out of the 4 Winston Million events in 1996? And the answer is indeed Dale Jarrett. Dale Jarrett. Akira Toriyama. Toriyama. There we go. Fun times. All right, here we go. Here we go. How many NASCAR Winston Cup races did Alan Kulwicki win? How many NASCAR Winston Cup races did Alan Kulwicki win? How many NASCAR Winston Cup races did Alan Kulwicki win is the next question. I guess it's for 4 and 5 and 10 and 6. Don't look it up. Go ahead and just guess. How many NASCAR Winston Cup races did Alan Kulwicki win? And the answer is 5. The answer is 5. And Tony Quito, looks like you were the first one on the button there. Jason Toth, Isaac McKissick, NASCAR Fan 93-100, Red Racer 1985, so many others. 5 indeed. What New England state does Busch regular Joe Bessie call home? What New England state does Busch regular Joe Bessie call home? Don't look it up. Go and just try to guess. What New England state does Busch regular Joe Bessie call home? I like that this race is earlier in the day today. It's nice that it's wrapping up a bit earlier in the evening when we don't have to do the show quite as late as some of our other events this season. What New England state does Busch regular Joe Bessie call home? Vermont, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Rhode Island. Yeah, this question does sound familiar, 8206. We might have had it before. What New England state does Busch regular Joe Bessie call home? And the answer is Maine. Maine. Anybody get that? I don't know if anybody did. New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Rockville, Ontario, Canada. Yeah, nobody got it. Wow, that was a tough one. I would have guessed it here. Vermont sounded right to me. Okay, here we go. What Charlotte bus driver later drove to an impressive 46 NASCAR victories? What Charlotte bus driver later drove to an impressive 46 NASCAR victories? What Charlotte bus driver later drove to an impressive 46 NASCAR victories? Yeah, it's surprising. Ricky Craven's not the only one from Maine. I'm with the Ultimate 23. Get the Twitter page up here. Let's see. Ooh, Justin Miello has a great picture of Kevin Harvick's spin on the last lap. I'm going to post that on the Twitter page here. Alrighty. What Charlotte bus driver later drove to an impressive 46 NASCAR victories? The answer is Buck Baker. Looks like you guys got that right off the bat. Maserati 9, there you go. Robbie Burns, NASCAR Fan 93-100. Too easy of a question, I suppose. I'm going to get Pockers's page up here. We don't usually do the disqualification thing anymore. The Daytona this year, I think, pretty much changed that pretty quick. But yeah, not seeing the changes yet. It's only been about that time since the finish. Show, electrical issues for Smithley. I thought that's what they said over the radio. Alrighty. Okay, next question. What year did Derek Cope start driving full-time for the NASCAR Winston Cup? Don't look it up. What year did Derek Cope start driving full-time for the NASCAR Winston Cup? What year did Derek Cope start driving full-time for the NASCAR Winston Cup? That is our next question. What year did Derek Cope start driving full-time for the NASCAR Winston Cup? And the answer is 1986. 86 is the answer. Not sure 100% if that's right, but it says 86. Bizarre. Alrighty. What did he drive in 86? Now I have to pull it up. Yeah, in 86 it only shows him running 5 races. He didn't do the full schedule until he won the Daytona 500. He's driving for Warren Resor in 1986. Limited schedule effort there. So yeah, I guess that one's not correct. All right, here we go. Who was the first Ford driver after David Pearson to be a NASCAR Winston Cup champ? Who was the first Ford driver after David Pearson to be a NASCAR Winston Cup champ? There you go, manufacturer question. Who was the first Ford driver after David Pearson to be NASCAR Winston Cup champ? All right, good question. Good question. We got Wallace, Petty, Elliott, Rusty, Kowicki, Elliott, Logano. No, not quite. This thing's still late 90s. Who was the first Ford driver after David Pearson to be NASCAR Winston Cup champ? 40 McFord face. Ben Bullard, you almost win this question already. Alrighty. And the answer is Bill Elliott. Took that long. How about that? Bill Elliott indeed. A lot of you got that Maserati 9. You were first on that one again. Zane Hussein, you remember the Amp Energy Juice werewolf video? I almost reposted that yesterday. I was thinking about that, but I think once was enough. I still miss Amp Energy Juice. I remember Junior promoting that because he liked orange juice. He didn't like coffee. I thought it was good. I thought it was a great idea. I would drink it now, especially now I'm working day shift again. I would absolutely drink that. But they don't seem to have that anymore. What NASCAR Winston Cup driver won the 1995 ESPY for auto racing? ESPY. What NASCAR Winston Cup driver won the 1995 ESPY for auto racing? ESPY. There you go. There's for newcomers there. See if you can stabilize that. There you go. Yeah, it's definitely wrong on the Derek Cope question. That's an interesting one. All right, I guess it's for Gordon and Earnhardt. And Gordon and Earnhardt. And the answer is Gordon. Jeff Gordon, indeed. The ayes have it. Alex Bernard, I think you were the first one. Jeff Gordon. Alrighty. How old, don't look this one up, how old was Richard Petty when he won his second NASCAR Winston Cup title? How old was Richard Petty when he won his second NASCAR Winston Cup title? So we're not looking for the year. We're looking how old he was when he won his second title. Richard Petty, the king. How old was he? We got 30, 31, 25, 27. We got numbers all over the place. Numbers. How old was Richard Petty when he won his second NASCAR Winston Cup title? And the answer is 30. 30 is the answer. Who was first on that? 23 and 24. Jack Garland, I think you were the first one on that one. 30. Matej Henkel. I'm sorry, I'm sure I've butchered your name there, but welcome aboard. I think you might be new to the group here. 30 is indeed the correct answer. Next question. Who moved up to drive the NASCAR Winston Cup John Deere Pontiac in 1997? Who moved up to drive the NASCAR Winston Cup John Deere Pontiac in 1997? Oh, Jason Heavener. Yeah, I got this game from the grad night actually at my high school when I graduated from high school in 2001. And it's a cool little thing. If you go on eBay and you look up Trivial Pursuit NASCAR, there's a ton of listings. We pulled this up last week. You can probably get one of these for like $10. So if you're looking for a good holiday gift for the racing fan out there, or maybe for yourself, definitely pull these up because this is a fun thing. We've been using this thing for probably the last, gosh, I don't know, pretty much all the disqualification shows. I don't think we did it right away, but a couple months into it, we brought this thing out of storage, and it's been a fixture ever since. So yeah. And the answer is indeed Chad Little. You guys got it. Chad Little is indeed the correct answer. How are we still doing this after 3 weeks? I don't know myself. Alrighty, next question. What early driver was also known as, quote, the Wilkes County Wildman? What early driver was also known as the Wilkes County Wildman? Wilkes County Wildman. Who does that refer to? As I take another glance at the Pockers page here. What's this? Alrighty. What early driver was also known as the Wilkes County Wildman? We got guesses for Junior Johnson, Ned Jarrett, Cotton Owens. Yeah, it is obscure. John Hunter Nemechek. The answer, hello, don't want to drop it. The answer is Junior Johnson, indeed. The majority has it here. Isaac McKissick, I think you're the first one there. Alex Bernard, your first time here. Welcome aboard. We're going to do another show next week for the Phoenix finale. We'll probably do some over the offseason, not every week, and not necessarily on the same day, but stay tuned to the Twitter account and here at the YouTube channel, and I'll try to give you guys a heads up when one comes about, and we'll do some trivia or maybe talk about the news coming through, the racing news and everything. Seems like it's going to be a pretty tumultuous, silly season with all these new teams coming in and other teams going out. So we'll see. Alrighty, next question. Okay. Who was the first driver to claim a Winston Cup win with a patch over one eye? Who was the first driver to claim a Winston Cup win with a patch over one eye? Who was the first driver to claim a Winston Cup win with a patch over one eye is the question. Dana Mon, I'm glad you enjoyed the Rise of the Field Fillers episode. More where that came from. Episode 3 still in the works, so we're going to get that going. I hope to have that before too long. It seems like it's about a 3 to 4 week turnaround on these episodes so far, but it's my first time doing a regular series in a while, I guess really since the starting grids. Our one-off videos have been fun and popular, and I'd like to kind of keep that going, and I think this will be a good series to do it. I had another idea this past Friday about how to approach it going forward, and I think that's going to help kind of focus the narrative a bit. So especially if you notice in certain videos, I don't talk about certain things with a certain driver or a certain team or something like that. There's a reason for that, because it's going to be kind of all part of the plan. All will be revealed. So if you notice in some video, like, why didn't you mention this? Oh, you'll see. You'll see. So that'll be certainly the thing. Alrighty, who is the first driver to claim a Winston Cup win with a patch over an eye? And the answer is Richard Petty. Didn't see that one coming. I almost thought this was like, wasn't there like Jim Roper or somebody had the thing? Yeah, Richard Petty. That's the answer. Well, there's a question to ask the king. It's like, where's the origin of that? Yeah. When was that? I don't know. That's a great question. It seemed like it was going to be an Ernie Irvin question, didn't it? Eye patch. I'm Googling it, and now saying it's okay. Single eye. Wow. Richard Petty. I have several search results that show Richard Petty, but no eye patch on there. Yeah. If anybody out there is able to find the information on that, definitely let me know. I'm not seeing that here. Yeah, Petty's king for a reason. Exactly. Lemons are cool. You hit that on the head. Yeah. No depth perception. Exactly. Yeah, it seems real tricky. Alrighty. Here we go. What former NASCAR Winston Cup champ was 0 for 20 at the Daytona 500 through 1998? Pay very close attention to the way this is worded. Now, again, we talked a little bit about wording when it came to that rule earlier. Is this asking what you think it's asking, or is it asking something else? What former NASCAR Winston Cup champ was 0 for 20 at the Daytona 500 through 1998? Okay, we got guesses for Earnhardt, Labonte. Yeah, exactly. See, Rusty Wallace, Ward Burton. Yeah. I'll read it again. What former NASCAR Winston Cup champ was 0 for 20 at the Daytona 500 through 1998? Tony Stewart, Terry Labonte, Ward Burton, Darrell Waltrip. What former NASCAR Winston Cup champ was 0 for 20 at the Daytona 500 through 1998? And the answer is Terry Labonte. It was asking that. There you go. Tricky one. Wording. See how tricky that is? It sounds like you're thinking 20 years of frustration, 20 years of disappointment. But no, Terry Labonte. Terry Labonte is the answer. Who was first on that one? Yep. Hang on. And Jack Garland. Yep, looks like you got that. Yep, Ultimate 23 Dragon, Beast of Metal, you got it. Robbie Burns, yep, see? Yeah, tricky one. Cat skid steer. What is it? Skid steer loader. Skid steer. The Ward Burton be. I mean, I'm waiting for. I mean, I know we got Jeff Burton in the booth. I think it would be hilarious if you had Ward in there too. That'd be the best. Alrighty. All right, we'll do a couple more questions here. We'll probably wrap up here in a little bit. Hope you all had a great Halloween there. I know we did over here at NASCAR headquarters. Only had a couple of kids come by there, but not too bad. I'm sure you guys saw the pictures of the jack-o'-lanterns there, the last bro put together. So we had some good ones there. It's always a fun holiday up here in this neck of the woods. All righty. How many seasons did Richard Petty win more races than any other driver? Listen to that one again. How many seasons did Richard Petty win more races than any other driver? How many seasons did Richard Petty win more races than any other driver? Yeah, looking for numbers. 5, 12, 4, 8, 9, 1975, 400,000, over 9,000. What? 9,000? By the way, we're almost over 9,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel, so big thanks to you folks on that too. Apparently, if we get to, I don't know if we get to 5 digits, I guess this is a real channel or something. I don't know. Also, kudos to the folks of the Scene Vault podcast. I know they mentioned us in the mentioned my channel here on the their Paul Andrews interview, so I really appreciate that. How many seasons did Richard Petty win more races than any other driver? And the answer is 6. The answer is 6. There's no way that can be right. Exactly. Vegeta. This is now meme chat. Okay, Brett 1824. I think you were the first one on that one. Maserati 9, you got it also. Bob, the Days of Thunder commentary, that's actually in the Patreon right now for $10 and up members. I already did that. So, and there's going to be other videos I'm working on. I have another one I'm thinking of putting together for the Patreon. I want to get that up sooner because I want to get some more stuff for those members that are in there and get some more content there. But yeah, the Days of Thunder commentary track, that is already in the Patreon. So that's already on there. Alrighty. What 1998 driver is a seasoned pool player with amateur tourney wins in 5 states? There we go. There's a good one. What 1998 driver is a seasoned pool player with amateur tourney wins in 5 states? Cool. There you go. See, somebody got the 8 ball there. Right on. What 1998 driver is a seasoned pool player with amateur tourney wins in 5 states? Yeah, no, this is a weird one. Marcus, Elliott, Jarrett, Timmy Boy, Benson, Lake Speed, Chad Little, Wally Dallenbeck, Kenny Wallace. I saw Chad Little on there. Yeah, we got everybody. Junior. What 1998 driver is a seasoned pool player with amateur tourney wins in 5 states? I really don't know this. The answer is Mike Skinner. Mike Skinner. Didn't see that coming. Yeah, I don't think anybody guessed that. Mike Skinner. So yeah, if Mike Skinner asks you to play pool, careful, he's a ringer. Yeah, Mike Skinner. Did not see that coming. Absolutely. Okay, we're going to do one more question here, and then we'll wrap up the show for tonight here. Last question of the evening. How many laps did Jody Ridley trail by before winning the 1981 Mason-Dixon 500? How many laps did Jody Ridley trail by before winning the 1981 Mason-Dixon 500? All right, we got guesses for 2 and 5 and 7. It seems nobody guessed Tom Bodine. Yeah, there you go. Good point. How many laps did Jody Ridley trail by before winning the 1981 Mason-Dixon 500? All right, 5 and 3 and 5 and 12 and 9 and 3. Alrighty, how many laps did Jody Ridley trail by before winning the 1981 Mason-Dixon 500? And the answer is 5. 5 is the correct answer. Dana Mon, you were the first one on that one. Jesse Henry, Robbie Burns, Maserati 9, Rails and Racing. There you go. Well, excellent. Well, again, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Wrapping up the show for tonight. Our next show is going to be after the championship week in Phoenix this next Sunday, pending weather conditions and everything like that. That's where we're going to be doing one that night right here on this channel. Episode 3 of Rise of the Field Fillers is on its way. Patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock for more content. At LastCarOnBrock is the Twitter account. LastCar.info is the website. The article for the Cup Series race today on Garrett Smithley, pending the results of technical inspection, is going to be up later tonight. For our American viewers out there, make sure you vote this week. Election Day this Tuesday. And in the meantime, we'll see you for the championship, and we'll find out who's going to take home the Truck Series LastCar Championship and who's going to take home the 3 trophies on the other side of the field there. So have a safe week, everyone, and I'll see you next time.